Peloton's best offer of the season is here. Get up to $300 off accessories when you purchase a Peloton bike, Bike Plus, or Tread. Choose from a variety of accessories like our cycling shoes, a heart rate monitor, non-slip grip dumbbells, and more. If you've been looking for a sign to join Peloton, this offer gives you everything you need to get going. This limited time offer ends November 28th. Visit onepeloton.com to learn more. All access membership separate. Offer starts November 14th and ends November 28th. Cannot be combined with other offers. See additional terms at onepeloton.com.
Hey everyone, welcome to Webcology on WMR.fm. It is the 10th of November, 2022. This is Jim Hedger from Digital Always Media, and Dave Davies from Weights and Biases. And just strange, November the 10th. I don't know what it's like way out there on the West Coast, but here in the middle of North America, where there should be snow up to your ankles or maybe your knees, it's warm. It's 68 degrees in the Fahrenheit scale, a nice balmy 20 degrees Celsius in the almost middle of November. How you doing?
You know, I'm sort of, it's like opposite day, because it is, I don't know, let me just do my quick switcheroo here. Yeah, it is 44 degrees here on the West Coast. And 2 days ago, we had like a decent amount of snow on the ground and it was like 28 degrees, where we're supposed to be having, you know, roughly your weather right now, right? It's supposed to be in like a little colder, but like it's supposed to be in like the high 50s, low 60s right now, and it is not. So there we are. It's like we're just switching weather.
Topsy-turvy day. Well, it's been topsy-turvy at the major social media outlets. That's supposed to be a good segue. It didn't quite work out. So
it's not bad. It's not bad.
Could you imagine being Mark Zuckerberg today, or Mark Zuckerberg last week, or Mark Zuckerberg anytime in the last little while, having burned what, 15, $20 billion on a virtual reality space that was kind of like Second Life mixed with Animal Crossing, but not as interesting as either. Right. And having so much of like your reputation, your everything riding on this. It's like Hooli from Silicon Valley, right? And suddenly the floor falls out. Except unlike Hooli, this is real life with real money, and not some like, you know, cartoonish live action environment, which it kind of is when you're trying to create a metaverse that ain't working out. So yeah, Meta, aka formerly known as Facebook, has lost value faster than Yahoo even did at its super slide rate. The only thing is, Facebook is like, you know, got 250,000 of the world using it, unlike Yahoo ever did. Yeah, but I got this whole Yahoo-ly feeling here about Facebook.
Yeah, that's not a bad word. Yahoo-ly.
Yahoo-ly totally fits the place, eh?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know which direction to go on this, because on one hand, like you've got, okay, that 15 billion is a lot of money. Like for those unaware of how much 15 billion is, it's a lot of money. Now, I mean, some might say you could spend 44 billion on something that could be a lot of wasted money too. But you know, that's a different conversation for, you know, a different story. But and I know he gets mocked for it a lot, but if he's right, like at some point, sometimes you do need to gamble big and if something does work, it will work massively, right? So on that, I kind of understand what he's doing there, right? Or why he went that direction. I get it. Would I have? I don't know. I don't know the data he was working on, but I can say I understand going, this is the future and we need to build it now, because if we win this, we win a lot.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Fair enough. You can build the world of Wall-E, right? Like that will be, you know, that's yours to lose if you're the first one in there. I'm not saying that's good or bad, but we'll leave that for the philosophers to discuss later. At the same time, when you see spends $15 billion and lays off, they're referring to it as like fires in a lot of cases, it's laid off, but like laid off 11,000 people. These two things do not go well together. Now, how many of those 11,000 were part of that 15 billion? I don't know. Like, I haven't seen those stats, but yeah, it's not good optics. That's for darn sure. Do I think he gambled wrong? Hindsight's 2020. And I think right now it looks like it might have been a misfire. Will it always look that way? It might look and go, we did survive the downturn. And when we came out of that, like 3 years from now, what if it does work? And he's like, yeah, now we're worth like 5 times what we were then. Right. Like,
indeed. And it'll look like, like the greatest genius of all time.
Exactly. Right now, it looks like a failure. Right now, you see a lot of people like mocking him on Twitter or ironically on Facebook or whatever. At the same time, when I see a lot of the people mocking, there's some good points against like this move that he's making and going, do what you do best, right? Like we've seen Google try and, skew off into like other areas and then quickly go, yeah, that was not good, right? And they hadn't blown $15 billion.
Right about now, whoever decided to cancel Google Plus is probably looking at their feet, trying to make sure nobody notices them in the corner, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is like the guy who canceled the Beatles. Could you imagine like what bad timing you would feel like? Because 2 years after Google's nascent social media empire crashed or just got shuttered out of disinterest, there's suddenly a massive opening in the social media world, because not only is Facebook's been losing its luster with users, especially younger users, for the last few years anyway. And for the first time ever last quarter and moving into this quarter, Facebook didn't grow in revenues, and it didn't grow in users, which is freaked out Facebook and the investors that bought it. And again, as this caused the layoff of 11,000 and climbing, by the way. There's according to Mark Zuckerberg, there are more to come in the future. But there's also a big hole in the area that was occupied by the Twitterverse. It's like almost like a big black hole, sucking in a whole bunch of talent, energy, people's life plans. Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, if you spend $44 billion and that turns into dust, are you still the rich? I mean, he's still the richest man in the world, even after spending $44 billion on Twitter. And there's something really weird and obscene about that, but I believe it to be true. So to recap, Elon Musk gets caught in a trap of his own mouth's making and ends up having to buy Twitter because stupid, and proceeds to do stupid stuff that makes the value of Twitter, that lowers the value of Twitter substantially, including but we're going to charge for the big blue check mark and verification and all that sort of stuff. I don't even know where to begin, because there was another thing that happened recently today, but I want to talk about a lead up to it, but it takes so long to do the lead up. God, that place is screwed. Anyway, the bottom line, there's more Twitter users today than there was last week, which is kind of weird. And Musk has thrown such incredible chaos into the social media market. The new thing is he announced that he's thinking about turning Twitter into a payment processing processing application. Well, had to be something. Okay, guys. So good. I didn't want to even get to the staff layoff stuff, but now that you mention it, as we're talking, Dave throws up an article on Twitter staff layoffs, and then so get this, he code stacked people. He got them to print out all the code that they'd written in the last year, which could be voluminous for some people and just a little bit for others, depending on what you were working on and what was needed, what problems you had to solve, how long it took to solve them. So imagine you're code stacking, right? Now, somebody's just some kid, some newbie is given the job to write all the crap code, just like write the stuff that makes the boring stuff happen. that makes the doors open and close and the lights go on and off, and, you know, acknowledges the token handshake when person A communicates with person B, all that boring stuff, not sexy at all. That person could write a Bible's worth of code, right?
Yeah.
Big, thick book worth of code. Somebody who's working on some really difficult stuff that requires like collaboration and problem solving, and you got to work with a team of 4 other people, just to figure out how to make something that's never happened before happen. That person will write, you know, like just a little bit of code, but it'll be really important, like cutting edge stuff, but it'll be real small. And so Musk gets all the people together and code stacks them. Basically has them printed out and put the stuff on a table and see who's written the most code. Who's written the most code gets to stay. They who write the least have to go. So as you just noted, Dave, Twitter lays off like almost half of its staff and now has to ask a few of them to come back because they realize that the people who were the most talented were the ones they showed the door. Oy vey, what do you say? I mean, like, smartest businessman in the world?
Yeah,
Really?
like that's something you should totally see coming, because we all know that, right? Like, regardless of your business, right? Like if you walked into, I don't know, a massive room of all of the restaurants that exist and said, how many dishes did you create today? Right? Like how many individual plates of stuff did you create today and how many people did you feed? And you went, everybody who didn't feed more than, like, we're going to cut off right at the median, and everybody who served, you know, the fewest number of people, all of you are gone. Yes, you'll have taken out a few crap restaurants for sure, but you're also going to take out some of the highest end, best chefs on the planet who don't flip burgers at McDonald's, because those are the people who are feeding the most people, right? So I think that's the scenario that Elon Musk sort of found himself in. Like, it's funny you noting that. I didn't actually know that's how he had done that.
Why would you? I mean, it's crazy. And he's also had to bring in engineers from Tesla to try to make up the gap of engineers who suddenly aren't at Twitter anymore. These are people who did completely different things.
Yeah.
Like, solving totally different. I'm not trying not to say that they aren't great programmers and that they're not amazing engineers. They probably are. I should hope they are, because, you know, people's driverless cars are riding on this, but now they're working at Twitter.
Right.
Now, before anyone gets really freaky and coming here to defend Elon Musk, we're not here to attack him or anything, even though he's doing absolutely stupid things and even further making a toxic environment more toxic. It's like $8 Chan. But the stuff that Elon Musk and Tesla have contributed, say in energy storage or telecommunications, or putting rockets into space and recovering them again while standing up on a barge. That's freaky, amazing, cool stuff, much of which might even help save the world in the future. I think his days of thinking of being the overlord of Mars are over, because ain't no one gonna let that happen. I mean, he couldn't even handle a Twitter account. It's like, Elon, if you can take care of your puppy, we'll let you have Mars. And, you know, the puppy died, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. I'm done.
We'll stop picking on Elon again. Like, it is interesting because you bring up some very interesting points. So I think our problem is, and it's the last thing I'll say on Elon, but it's sort of like to his credit on this one, because I do dig at him a lot, but you brought up some interesting points. He has done some amazing things.
Yep. And argue that.
Like, and just like, what you can debate whether it was his brain that did it or whether he just had the will to like shove until it got done, right? Which, I mean, there's like, sometimes jobs just need that guy to get them done and go, I can't do it, but you can, and I'm just gonna all shove you through that door until it gets done.
God, that's so cool.
But, you know, I mean, that I just want to highlight or just want to mention, like, that is why it's like this contrast to like when you're watching that same person do something that you're like, I don't get it. Like, and maybe like the metaverse, maybe in hindsight, I'll be like, okay, like I may like or not like what he did, but yeah, okay, like he turned it into what he wanted and it turned into this like it was worth 44 billion. I didn't see what he was going to do with it. And yeah, it's generating like that kind of revenue that it's worth that. But right now I'm not seeing that. So that's the contrast that's really hitting me. I'm just like, you can build like self-driving cars and put rockets in space, but you can't manage this, and you should have known you shouldn't. But we'll see.
You remember a few years back during the Silicon Valley unicorn era when you were marveling at it, freaking out at the valuation of all the BS that was out there? And now we're just talking about 44 billion as if, someone's just throwing it around. Whatever, it's 44 billion, maybe. The world shifts. It's incredible, eh?
Yeah, that's true. I remember the conversation you were talking about, and I looked up like the quarterly earnings reports versus valuation of like Ford, which builds real things, and like Google or Twitter, or that like don't build a concrete thing. I'm not saying they don't have value. Clearly they do, but they don't build like a hard fact. I'm like, if just like Ford was going to be valued at like these incredible rates based on like the revenue they were earning. Now Google's caught up really, really fast. That was, I think, the one that I was picking on at the time, like in their revenue they're generating. Anyway, going off on a tangent there, and we've got other news to talk about. But it is crazy how fast you become used to 44 billion being okay.
Indeed. Indeed. Before we get to any other news at all, just a quick education prompt. Two of them actually. SMX is coming up. The XMX conference, Search Marketing Expo, one of the great conference series is coming up, except it's not in live form yet. They're going to be coming back. They are coming back live eventually, right?
I believe so. Yes. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. They haven't told me anything like in that regard, but from the wording of things that I understand, like, and I am reading the same stuff you are probably, and you can sort of allude that would be their goal. Now, do they come back with as many? That's something I'm interested about all the conference series, or do they go like, here's our one or two?
I think it'll be a step up. We'll see what happens. We'll see what the market bears, but the market is giving a free SMX, online SMX next week. Go to searchengineland.com/search-marketing-expo-xmx-conference, and you'll get all the information you need. If you remember all that, just go to searchengineland.com and follow the SMX prompts. Dave, you're speaking on secondary, are you not?
Yeah, I am, and it's going to be a lot of fun because it's the first time sort of the pressure comes off, right? Because one thing I love is you get to pre-record your session, right? I mean, I love that because like as somebody who will be attending some of the sessions as well, because you do get a chance to fine tune if you needed to, right? Like it's not as personable. You don't get to engage the crowd quite the same. But no, I didn't have to like stop, but I had enough time that I could have gone like, okay, stop. Cut, right? Okay, we'll pick up from here, right? If something goes wrong, you can like, oh, okay, didn't mean to say it that way. So that'll be nice, I think, as an attendee to go, oh, okay, like crap's been cut out and like this is staying a little more on point. When I says 30 minutes, it's going to be 30 minutes, right? Like that's what's going to happen here. But then all like takes the pressure off me because I just need to show up, and my session is talking about tools and like 2023, like here's like the base. Everybody's different, and I'm clear on that, right? But here's like the base set, a lot of free tools for people, stuff like that. And then just show up for like like I just get to show up for my favorite part of those sessions, which is Q&A. Just like, all right, let's talk about stuff, right? In case you couldn't tell, Jim, I like talking.
Indeed.
And, so yeah, and like I love the like open chat. I think that's why I like, it's so much enjoy our time on the podcast, just like open chat back and forth. So I get to show up live for the part that is my favorite thing to do, just that back and forth Q&A and talking SEO. So
okay, so just even though attendees can expect that the session is pre-recorded, the person delivering the session is not doing it live, they will be there for Q&A afterwards, right?
Exactly. So I think as an attendee, I actually think it's going to offer, because I am attending some and I'm expecting to get a better experience than I normally do, because a lot of the like sort of like misfires that you see from live, which is kind of interesting. And in a real live event, that's great, but it'll be a lot more like the timings will be better. There'll be a lot less wasted time. So there'll be more, it'll be just a much cleaner experience for people to just get the information they're there to get. And then more, which will of course yield more time at the end for questions. Because if you trim out all the ums, ahs, and sort of crud that people tend to sort of like throw in, you'll get a cleaner experience, but it'll probably also be a few minutes shorter. So you'll get a bit more time at the end for those questions. Because you've spoken a lot of times, right? The number of times that you're at one and there's more questions than you have time to answer. There'll just be, time for probably an extra question or two at the end, which I'm really looking forward to, both as somebody speaking and as an attendee, to just be able to have that time to actually hear, because often it's in the questions that you get the real information.
Okay, so again, SMX happening next week online. Go to searchengineland.com, follow the SMX prompts. There's links all over, visible links all over the website, and attend the conference. This is again of the 3 or 4 major conference series. SMX is one of the grandparent conferences. Okay, the other important educational tip here on Webcology is also from Search Engine Land. They have a tutorial on how to do Excel pivot tables, and it sounds boring. It's among the least sexy stuff we could possibly talk about until you actually got to group your data, and then knowing how to do pivot tables is life-changing. Save you insane amounts of time finding and sorting and grouping stuff. If you don't know what I'm talking, if you know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. You probably don't need the tutorial. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you do need the tutorial. Your life will change. Go over to Search Engine Land, invest a half hour, screw around with Excel for a while, impress your boss, get more money, and buy me or Dave a drink at the next conference you actually see us at. That's how this should work.
You know what? I'm going to give credit where it's due. We chatted with Carol Alouf. She's been on our show a while back, and she's an Excel. I don't know if there's somebody that loves Excel more than her. I don't know who it is. And I actually saw one of her sheets that made use of pivot tables, and you did not understate the value that can be added in. And I sort of like ripped off the table. I'd never seen it before. Like I'd seen one in her tables or never really thought to see it. I'm sure I'd seen it on like screen shares or whatever, but I'd never really thought, oh, how do we do this? And I saw one and was like, oh, how do we do this? And yeah, you're right. They're really, they make life a lot easier. There's depending on the mechanics of what you're using. But anyway, yes, highly worth the read. Just wanted to like give a like agreement and a hat tip to somebody.
Blow away your clients with well-ordered data. Yep. Okay. So have you seen an uptick in direct traffic in your search? I'm sorry, in your Google Analytics or your GA4? You may or may not have. If you have, it could be because, well, people aren't necessarily abandoning their Twitter profiles. They're just not spending so much time there because they're over at Mastodon. And Mastodon has a little outgoing trick. It sort of puts on all links that leave Mastodon. Rel equals no referral. So Google Analytics hasn't a clue exactly where it came from, although it actually knows it came from Mastodon, but it's been told not to tell you, so it won't. Thanks, Google. So it gives you a direct traffic. So when you're trying to explain where direct traffic comes from, now you could also say, and possibly Mastodon, just to see what the look on the, actually don't say it, they'll just look at you funny. Okay, so what else do we got? Where do we want to? Okay, accessibility overlays. This is actually a really important one. And you know what, this is important. I have a client who I do need to talk to about this, because we were all pleased to find this accessibility overlay and put it on this really massive website, and it solved a huge amount of problems by using a plugin rather than having to address problems individually. And Casey Markey, somebody whose opinion I actually really strongly value, outlined at Search Engine Land today, November 10th, for anyone who's listening to the show later, why you shouldn't use them. Apparently, they completely gum up accessibility and sometimes cause more accessibility problems than they're worth.
Isn't it? Go ahead. Sorry.
But more importantly, um, the client I'm talking about, the first order of business was to make their website as accessible to as many people as possible, because that's just good business. But the second order of business was to do something that protected them legally. If you don't comply with the U.S. Disabilities Act, you are literally leaving yourself open to lawsuit. And according to Casey, some accessibility overlays, he doesn't name them specifically, but he certainly challenges webmasters to investigate. Some accessibility overlays will not protect you from suit, even though you intended to do the right thing. It's not your intentions, it's actually whether you did or didn't do the right thing that counts in court.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are running an accessibility overlay on your website, one of those all-in-one fix the accessibility problem plugins, read this article, check the plugin really closely. Maybe you want to talk to the disability community in your neighborhood and see what works, what they recommend using. But be careful. Again, if your purpose was to legally protect yourself, you might not actually be doing that.
That is a very, very valid point. And you know what? I'm going to leave it to you, because I know the story that we're going to be going to next. And I'm going to leave the segue to you, because it lends itself so naturally. You know what we're going to be talking about next.
Oh, right. Okay, good. Alt text. Right. Okay, that makes sense. Thanks. I was like, uh-oh, really? I don't know. I have no idea where we're going next. But okay, yeah. So in that vein, now that you mentioned it, there's a bunch of different ways to make a website more accessible for persons with disability. One of which is to understand how screen readers for the blind work. Blind people don't actually look at a monitor, as you might imagine. They may or may not be able to see it. People with visual impairments. They have tools that can read the website to them, read all the text, and describe images to them. There's a number of SEO tricks. These are as old as the profession itself, as old as websites themselves. You use alt text to describe an image. And that's mostly to help Google understand what the image is about, but it's also that alt text will be read as the image description through the screen reader. So if you're keyword stuffing, imagine somebody who's, surfing the web, who's visually impaired, surfing the web, having the web read to them, and suddenly they get this whole string of keyword gobbledygook. Completely destroys their user experience. 1x1 pixel images. I got a client running a really old website that we just upgraded, and I couldn't figure out where all the HTTP requests were coming from. Web tracks, old web tracks. Like seriously, and they use. I found they use a 1x1 pixel as the trigger for web tracks. For goodness sake, that's like 2002, 2003. So it's still out there. And it's apparently still working. If John is listening, John, your tool's still out there and it's working. There you go.
Black Friday deals. The gifts are unreal.
Shop JCPenney for thousands of deals so low, no coupons needed. This weekend, save up to 50% on kitchen electrics from brands like Keurig and Cuisinart. Say yes, please, to diamonds and gemstones, now $19.99 each. And bundle up the fam and coats, starting at $14.99. We got your holiday.
Black Friday deals. Shop, JCPenney.
Offers valid on select items 11/18 through 11/20. Excluded from coupons. Exclusions apply. See store or jcp.com for details.
Aloha. If you are looking for thought-provoking conversations and different perspectives than you'll find anywhere in the mainstream media on the topics and issues of the day, you're in the right place. I'm Tulsi Gabbard, former presidential candidate, United States Congresswoman, surfer, soldier in the Army Reserves, and veteran of 3 deployments. On my show, we go beyond the headlines and the sound bites. We cut through the noise to provide you with unique, nuanced perspectives on all sorts of issues, along with my unfiltered views. No partisan talking points here, no hidden agendas. This is the Tulsi Gabbard Show.
Peloton's best offer of the season is here. Get up to $300 off accessories when you purchase a Peloton bike, Bike Plus, or Tread. Choose from a variety of accessories like our cycling shoes, a heart rate monitor, non-slip grip dumbbells, and more. If you've been looking for a sign to join Peloton, this offer gives you everything you need to get going. This limited time offer ends November 28th. Visit onepeloton.com to learn more. All access membership separate. Offer starts November 14th and ends November 28th. Cannot be combined with other offers. See additional terms at onepeloton.com.
Okay. Hidden text on page. If it's text on page, screen reader doesn't care what if it's same background color as the same color as the background, it'll read it. So you got this whole block of gobbledygook crap text that you think is helping you, probably isn't, by the way. Anyway, a lot of misusing a lot of these SEOs tricks. Not only are you probably wasting your time, because Google, if they're not penalizing you, Google simply doesn't care that you're doing it. Or they're probably laughing at you and penalizing you. But you're also hurting people who may have wanted to give you money. They might have wanted to buy something off you, but you made it impossible for them, so they ain't gonna. That was dumb of you. Don't do it.
You bring up something, you're reminding me of something that I've often wondered at. Like, I'm sure you remember the old Google dances, and like the folks from Google, good rule on their part, weren't allowed to have a beer with us, right? They didn't, and we did, and I think that was on purpose. Well, I know that was on purpose, but I have a hunch, like after the fact, or like at different parties, the Google folks would get together and have a few beers together, and I have to wonder if they had sort of drinking games. It might have been like, what problem can we find now? Like, what embarrassing, like, because you were noting, like, looking through and sort of like laughing at us, like, as like not you or I necessarily, and hopefully not our listeners, but I used to do stuff like that. Now it doesn't work, so I don't. But I have to wonder if they're like, okay, like sort of a what is it, the way you go chasing around, like a scavenger hunt, right? Of like, okay, find us web pages, and here's like the bingo card, like problems you have to find. The first team to find examples of like keyword stuffing and like hiding text and like scraping and stuff, right? I have to wonder if they have those sorts of games going on at the Googleplex when we're not looking.
You know what? I remember me and Andrew Goodman tried to get Google several times. You know that they have a roller hockey rink at the old Googleplex, and we tried to get them to let us play on the roller hockey rink, either Canadians versus anybody who'll challenge us, or SEOs versus Googleites. And they'd have the advantage because it's their rink, and it's not like we get out playing roller hockey very much, right? But I figure there's a good cadre of Canadian SEOs, and even if you don't never play hockey, you're Canadian, so you know how to do it, right? Anyway, but they would never let us. Never happened, never once. And it's mostly because there's the Google at the Google dances, where once a year at SES San Jose and then SMX San Jose, Google would have all the search marketers come and all the SEOs come and have a big party on their campus. It was called the Google Dance. They stopped doing that after the 2008 crash, figuring that throwing a several $100,000 party wasn't really good optics when nobody had any money anymore. But they were so much fun. I understand actually Google dances have been revived, but they're not like they used to be.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sure
although that is reminding me of the Search Bash event, and I can't remember who the Googler was, but that actually got into the sumo suit and went at it. I can't remember who they were.
Straight up, that was Matt Cutts.
It was Cutts. Okay. And did he go up against Rand Fishkin?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, it's not like they're gonna have him go up. It's not like they're gonna have Matt Cutts go up against Greg Bowser or anything, right? like Darren likes chaos, but not like that. Okay, we should get back on track again. For a longest time, there was if SEOs were wondering about JavaScript and stuff contained in JavaScript. Can Google read it? You get warnings. All your stuff's contained in the DOM, and Google can't read it. Google's never going to see it. You're going to lose. Your canonicals are there. No one knows it. That's not true exactly. In fact, Google's released recently updated its support docs on JavaScript, specifically on JavaScript links, and it describes how to make them appear 200 OK fine for them. Phrase them as you're supposed to in the Java document itself. Use the ahref. Use an anchor at any rate to distinguish this is a anchored link, and you should treat it as such. And Google will follow it and move PageRank along it, and it will resolve 200 OK fine. There's a search engine roundtable. Yesterday had a sort of a pre-see on the update of the support documents. But go over to Google support docs and see for yourself.
Yeah, no, something just for our listeners, because I've seen all sorts of problems with JavaScript sites, or I guess SPAs, or whatever, however you want to call them, is all of this is assuming, and rightfully so, because there's other documents that they have on JavaScript. This is all assuming that your site itself is crawlable to where they can extract this link out of, right? Like it's not like, because there are versions, like if you haven't got pre-rendering, for example, and or if Google for some reason can't render the page, you pointed that out, like it's all buried in the DOM, they can't see it. If that is still the scenario, having it in an ahref does not magically fix that, right? Like that's actually your fundamental problem. But I get what they're getting at is, and even on like non-JavaScript based sites, you can have JavaScript generated links, and that's what they're also talking about. Is if you're using it, there's a few they list, to your point, they list some great examples of how you could create them, and it's a great read. I just thought I would clarify that if they can't read your page, they can't read the link, regardless of what you do with it.
Indeed. Sorry, that was an assumption.
That's a good assumption. When I first read it, I thought that was, I'm like, yeah, that like, because even Barry's like, you probably know this. I'm like, yeah, you probably do. And I'm like, yeah, maybe not. Like, not necessarily.
From continuing on, and actually there's a couple stories in Chris's session of that you'll probably know this, but it's been noted, so we're going to note it for you anyway. And this is a John Muellerism, and he's absolutely right. Say you got a website that has an internal search engine. That internal search engine will produce its own search result pages, and if you let Google into that internal search engine, it'll produce it'll kill your analytics. It will kill you. In fact, it'll smother you in bogus pages. Block it with robot text. Don't let them through there. Don't let them in there. Don't let them into those areas. And you don't need to let them into those areas. Google, how to say this? Google will do everything it possibly can to make pages appear. It'll do anything to discover what's in your website. It will sell your grandmother, given half the chance, to discover what's in the corner of your website. So don't let Google do that. That's a setting in AdWords. Don't let Google do that. But Google will even fill in forms, so you can assume it's probably using like H1s or page titles to fill in the search query and make pages appear. So if you have good category structure, if it's really easy to get to the category, say from top level navigation or maybe a footer or something, somewhere from your homepage, to get to a category page that in turn funnels people efficiently to specifically to product or more specific information pages, then the search feature, people probably won't even use it. I mean, like, have it because it's useful, but don't let Google in. It'll never leave.
Right. And you know what? I can see people thinking to themselves, but more pages is better. No. They're not. And also like too, I think that one of the points John is making here, it may not be, but if you just have these generated search result pages, for example, like you basically got a bunch of orphan pages on your site, right? They're not linked to. So you got all these orphans just sitting there, and yeah, I mean, heck, even if they did generate on the fly after the fact, they're nothing pages, right? Like they're not, they're just sitting there if you have a proper category structure, you've crafted how you want that weight to flow through to. So I think that's, it's a natural, but you're right. I guess you're like, you introed it by going, speaking of things that we should have to say, but you're right. Like we shouldn't, but here we are because John had to answer it.
Well, here's for the Barry himself, the great Barry Schwartz, even himself noted that he shouldn't have to write this stuff, but when you got a whole bunch of stuff that needs to get worked on when you're optimizing a website, start with the big stuff and work your way to the little stuff. Simple, right? That's Google's advice, and Barry says, that's such good advice. I shouldn't even have to write this, but now that they've said it, I'm going to tell you. So there you go. Barry tells us, we tell you. That's how it works. It's a union.
Yeah.
Thing, really.
Now I'm going to just like be a jerk here, and I can't believe I'm disagreeing with something Barry's saying. Like that's just rarely, rarely happens.
What?
But
Come on.
There are times when, as an SEO, you sit down and you're like, here's a list of tasks that need to be done. Mm-hmm. And here's one that's going to take big impact, but it's going to take a week.
Oh, that's
true.
Okay.
Here's one that's going to have like these little impacts, and I got like half an hour before lunch.
Okay, well, there's that for sure. But take the biggest impacts you can first, and that will likely produce much stronger results for you after. I had we came and played cleanup on a migration problem for someone's migration problem. First order of business, get the 301s worked out, and first order of business there, get the 301s that involve backlinks worked out. Well, get the 301s that on the page worked out so that Google has somewhere to go through. Once that's finished, backlinks, get those worked out, get them back again. So what you prioritize and figure what's going to make the biggest impact for the work that you do. Okay, moving right along. This is one from Danny Sullivan. Really cool, because we don't hear from him often enough. On AI content. So the how to say this? People have been saying that Google's out to get AI content, which has been kind of silly because how will it know exactly, right? Like it doesn't know if it's AI or not. There's markers. You could probably tell a little bit, but you can't tell for sure. And Google wants to be a very efficient jury. It wants to know before it damns somebody. So Google's test isn't whether it's AI content or not. Google's test is whether it's helpful or not. According to Danny Sullivan, you can have AI content all over your website. It should be helpful. Now, Danny suggests strongly that humans will probably write more helpful content because they empathize with other humans' needs. Mm-hmm. That'll probably be more useful and more helpful and better for Google to answer whatever question the user's asking of it. But it's not AI content that's gonna sink you. It's crappy content that's going to sink you.
Right. And doesn't that make sense? Right. And it sets a good tone for them for the future. Like when they were making up their rules and making up all their statements on like AI content specifically, like AI generated content, it really was a glorified scraper, right? Like it was just patching together crap it had found and just going, okay, here's my page. We all knew it. It was crap. Like and it was just pieced together in a way that might make it look unique. We've come a long way. There's a lot of great tools out there that can assist in that in the process. I won't name names, but there are some. And you know, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, Google would be they can't. They're generating it themselves, right? Like, or they're working very, very hard to do that right now. Like, heck, that's what half their like biggest algorithms of the last couple years are built around. So, you know, it makes sense to use it. However, I think that the point is very, very valid. I can't say I don't use AI to come up with outlines to assist with certain pieces of content. It's fantastic.
I'm sure.
In fact, I used part of it in the last article that I wrote. I just like let some AI write some pieces for me. I was clear on what I was doing with that section, but get a human being going through there. Use it as a tool to speed things up. But
well, then, Jamie, I mean, think of the enormity of some websites now. I got one website I'm working with that has over over 100,000 parent, and then you can get into millions of child categories after, or child products after that. You want content for what? Okay, yeah, we can do that. Absolutely. Yeah. But it'll take about 5 minutes. Right. So I mean, there's absolutely a place for AI, especially in the burgeoning new web. However, that might manifest itself, where it's going to need a lot of muscle to flesh it out, be it text, words, or rooms made of ones and zeros. It's going to take a huge amount of artificial intelligent muscle to make that happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving along again, John Mueller on dealing with negative SEO tactics from the competition. This is people like dropping a whole bunch of craptastic links all over your website or something to that effect. 9 times out of 10, probably 99 times out of 100, ignore them. They honestly can't hurt you. Google, if it's a useful link, it'll be useful to you. If it's a crappy link that has zero to do with your website, Google doesn't care. It just doesn't even consider it. It puts it over in the I don't care category. Do you think Google actually does that? Like, say you've got a nursery website and somebody dumps a whole bunch of porn links on it, or porn links directing to it. Do you think Google just ignores the effect of those links? Of that bad neighborhood pointing to the childcare site?
I can only imagine that they do now, because John, we've had this kind of discussion on similar statements in the past, and I've always gone, I don't really believe them, right? Because people get manual actions against them. But when it's John, like, he doesn't know everything 100%, and he's been wrong before. We've talked about it. But I have a feeling it is at least very, very close to being true for him to come out and make the statement the way he did. I suspect what we will see is, if they couple that and they see that your site sucks, right? Like, or they see other signals, like
some pattern of behavior.
Would they put a manual reviewer on it if they saw this spike and then go, okay, no, this is just some like nursery that's like got a 5-page site going, hey, like, we're a nursery, right? Like, and we serve this area, and like let us either take care of your plants or kids, depending on what kind of nursery, right? Like, as long as they're that, I think he's probably right. So I'm guessing they've taken out this automated sort of angle of things is what I believe it must be going on now, where you won't just get hit with an automated penalty based on negative link assaults at you, and that maybe it just like kicks up like okay, we're going to watch you now and look for other signs to tip it over for a manual review or something like that.
Where else? We have about 10 minutes left. What do you feel like? We have so many stories we could jump at. This is incredible.
One of the ones that I love, so just to make sure we get to it, once again by Barry Schwartz, so just to make sure that it's covered, and this will be a quick one, is Google showing on-time delivery and order accuracy estimates.
God, that is so cool.
I know, I just love it. And so for folks who haven't seen, I mean, you can go over to SE Roundtable. It's over there, of course, because I mentioned Barry. I guess it could be search engine land, but it's SE Roundtable right now. And it's actually in the results. Now, the only examples that I saw were from sponsored, but either way, they're in there, and it shows what the on-time delivery rate as a percentage is. I love it. Like I think it's absolutely fantastic to actually just
Another
show like what are your odds of getting it on time.
Well, another example of how schema can give one little teeny piece of information that enhances a search result just enough to make me go, I really want to order from those guys.
Right. Yeah, like along with reviews, because it sits in the display right beside reviews. Right.
Mhm.
So I do have to wonder now with review ratings, when you sign up for Google Ads and you go, yes, I would like to show those, you can set your threshold to go, okay, if it's below 3, well, you don't get to set it. It's like it is on or it's not. And I believe it's 3, if memory serves me, where if it's lower than 3, it won't show up. Right. And then you can decide if you just never wanted to show up. I wonder if they've got the same thing with the order accuracy and on-time delivery to go, okay, but if it's below, which would make sense because you're paying for this, right? Like in the sponsored. I'm not talking about organic, just like in sponsored. Do you want it to show up or not? So anyway, I will leave that to like try and figure out for myself later. But anyway, yeah, I think it's a really nifty feature that I love to see, and it ties in nicely to me. Although it's a completely different thing, but it's to like help people make better purchasing decisions, is changing the numbers in the reviews. So where we've got that, you can see sort of like the review ratings, especially when dealing with local results, like a restaurant. Like we were chatting because I'm going to go out for lunch with Ross Dunn from Step Forth. I'm going to be going out for lunch with him next week. Looking forward to it because it's been a while, and we're going to Suk J Thai. One thing that I might care about, especially if I was traveling to a different location, is what percentage of those reviews come from people in that location. That's what I often, when I'm looking at reviews, I'm like, okay, which ones do I need to translate, right? Like if I'm traveling to a foreign country, because I don't actually want to, go to like a fantastic Japanese restaurant that's thought to be an awesome Japanese restaurant only by non-Japanese people, right? Like I would want to go to one that locals really love. So I've had to do it that way. Now, right in the results by the reviews, they note the number of reviews that are from people in that area. I think it's a fantastic addition, especially for local results.
Okay, we're down to like 5 minutes or so. So quick note, Google can pass PageRank from HTTP to HTTPS redirects. That makes sense. That's okay. That makes sense. That's not a weird out of the blue story, because the HTTP page actually doesn't exist anymore. It's just being redirected into the new HTTPS form. So that's okay. That's not too weird.
No, I do find it an interesting one when I'm thinking of like the whole time, like one just needs for the answer to that question to think there was a time when we were all HTTP and Google said you all need to switch. And it's if the answer was no to that, the entire web would have collapsed in that one moment in time, right? We all would have switched to HTTPS. All of the links would have that we had incoming would have been trash. And that would have been the death of the web, right? Like only new sites that were getting links built at the time would have risen. So I did find that to be sort of like a funny question, but
now one thing people do want to watch out for is, and this happens sometimes with older plugins in say WordPress, like on WordPress or something, is an older application, something from a third party that hasn't been updated in a while and is still drawing from an HTTP URL. If you're running that on your website and you have a couple of them that come up, Google's going to note that in your not in Core Web Vitals exactly, but in the user experience area of Search Console. And if you get enough HTTP draws on any given set of requests, Google will, your page is secure because you're HTTPS, but you may be passing a signal over an insecure, passing data over some insecure hop, and Google's wary of that.
Yeah. Good point.
So watch out for that. You can see that in Search Console. around the core Web Vitals count. I'm not exactly positive. I'm seeing it in my mind's eye right now, but if you do see an increase in HTTP requests on a page, that's where you should probably be looking. It's probably some third-party plugin. What else do we got? I hear the story of that scraper site that got hurt by the most recent update, and then went complaining to John Mueller about it.
Yeah, that's just sort of got to be one of those like, you knew. Like,
That's, you know what, you've been skating off this for so long, and now you're mad because so this website was built on and you know, but sometimes it's totally appropriate just to scrape content, and there was a whole bunch of COVID information websites that did exactly that. Took information made available by public health boards in a bunch of different areas, and then like made a regional dashboard for people. That would be appropriate, sure. In fact, I think Google would probably be okay with that. But if you're just scraping data and repurposing it, say like a phone book or something, and then surrounding that by Google Ads, Google would not be okay with that because it's web spam. Anyway, Google has gone through like 5 algorithm updates since Labor Day, something like that. One of them was going after web spam. I think the kind of scraper site this person described was web spam, and they went anyway. If you want some fun, go over to I think this one was on Mastodon because Mueller has migrated. You know, an interesting thing. You know how you can tell the difference between John Mueller on Twitter and John Mueller on Mastodon?
how?
On Mastodon, he's taken a Sharpie and drawn hair on his head. It's really funny. This is said one bald guy to another, by the way. So anyway, it's a funny little thread, and it's the one that I think led to I think it's gonna have to be our last story. John Mueller again saying straight up, exasperated style, search ain't guaranteed, kids.
I think that's all there is to say about that.
Indeed. No, search, there's a lot of work and it takes a long time and all of the stuff that you're supposed to know. But I think John Mueller, again, watch your blood pressure meds, noted that there is no guarantees, and such as like baseball. There ain't no guarantees in baseball either. And there's no guarantees in search. Just do the right things and you'll probably end up scoring more often than not.
Yep, that's about all there is to it.
And actually, it's full clock. That's all there is. That's about all there is to it. We've gone all the way around again. So, Dave, thank you so much. This was a fast and fun show. Like, seriously.
It really was. A lot happened this week, and it was awesome to chat with you about it.
Indeed. Okay, so on behalf of Dave Davies from Weights and Biases, this is Jim Edge of Digital Always Media, and friends, you've been listening to Webcology on WMR.FM on the 10th of November, 2022. Stay well, rank well, be kind to each other, and we'll talk to you next week.
The opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of WebmasterRadio.fm's management or sponsors. Any rebroadcast or redistribution without authorized consent of WebmasterRadio.fm is prohibited.
When it's time for an adventure on the open highway, one quick call to American Family Insurance gets you headed in the right direction. Our travel peace of mind package is there if you encounter a bump in the road. From roadside assistance to rental car coverage, we have you covered. Find a local agent or get a quote at amfam.com.
American Family Insurance.
American Family Mutual Insurance Company, SI, and its operating companies, 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin.
Peloton's best offer of the season is here. Get up to $300 off accessories when you purchase a Peloton bike, Bike Plus, or Tread. Choose from a variety of accessories like our cycling shoes, a heart rate monitor, non-slip grip dumbbells, and more. If you've been looking for a sign to join Peloton, this offer gives you everything you need to get going. This limited time offer ends November 28th. Visit onepeloton.com to learn more. All access membership separate. Offer starts November 14th and ends November 28th. Cannot be combined with other offers. See additional terms at onepeloton.com.